And what's up, everybody? It is the Bullpen. I'm your host, Tony Mack. That is Lucas here with us today. I've got to fight the urge to say Tricky Ricky because I've been doing it for years on the radio and been doing it on the podcast here with you guys as well. Ricky's in Vegas. He was going to try to make it work. He was going to try to get on, but then I realized 20 minutes for the podcast. Well, I realized this morning I didn't have the login for any of this, so I tried to reach out to Ricky. He was on a flight. He got off his plane at 1:40 our time. So he got me in. We got logged in. He's like, look, my internet sucks. We're not going to be able to do this. So he's not going to be in here today. It's just going to be me. It's going to be Lucas in here joining us as well. We can talk a little World Cup. We can talk sports that are going on around as well. I know you being on social media, you know just about everything that's going on out there that's fun to talk about. There's a wonderful ad that Drew Brees was in. We'll talk about that was beautiful. But I do want to give everyone else a shout out before we get going. We'll talk about the Christmas light show and everything else first. But I want to give a shout out to everybody that wished me a happy birthday yesterday. I really, really appreciate that. The person that got it started in the office was actually Lindsay. She walked around yesterday morning like 9:30. It was like, hey, happy birthday. And everyone was like, it's your birthday? So I really appreciate that. Everybody reaching out on here. Troy By, my boy at Mantech and the Our Town podcast, hooking me up with the merch. He gave me a hat for my birthday. I got a beanie back there as well, but the hat looked a little better. I'm used to wearing hats like this. Anyway, so thank you so much, man. You're probably going to be in the comments here in just a second anyway, as you always are. You're a big supporter of our show. You listen to me and Ricky on the radio. You've been listening to the podcast for since we've been doing it. And don't think that I've forgotten Charles out there as well, NFL Insider, and Robert at 201. 201, they were in my inbox on Twitter. No show? Where's the show? Hey, what are we doing? Where is it? Like, we're working on it. It took a minute to get it fixed and to get it where it needed to be, but we're here now and we're live. So Robert, Charles, NFL Insider, his name's Ethan. We are here and we are ready to go. We got plenty to talk about. Lucas, again, thank you for being in here in Ricky's stead. I've done 3 hours of radio before where Ricky and Clint couldn't go. It's awful being in the same room talking to yourself, talking to people listening, but you're by yourself. So
yeah, a shout out to Josh Carey, our play-by-play announcer, and any play-by-play announcer of literally any sport who do solo broadcasts, because that's really hard to like talk to yourself for 3 hours for 100+ games during a baseball season.
I respect Josh so much for doing all of that. I mean, I used to have to. I was at the radio station that he partnered with, so I'd always have to pull the audio down and send it to him. And there are sometimes I would just sit there and listen for 45 minutes while I got other stuff together, thinking, dude, you do this not only for 3-ish hours every game, but you do it 6 straight days. And you do it 138 times a year. I don't know how he comes up with all the stories that he continues to have. I don't know how he continues to have the same energy and all that, but it's pretty incredible. It's impressive what Josh is able to do. So we're not gonna sit here and brag about Josh all week. I'm actually playing him in a tournament we have going downstairs, and he is spanking me right now. We're gonna talk about everything else going on in the world of sports, and we have to talk first. Take a trip down Toyota Field. I mean, that's where we are. That's where we do this show. Last night at the Christmas light show, we had not only do we have the light show going through, you can come in and do the Winter Wonderland, but we had Sonny DeShera and we had Colton Ingram, pitcher for the Trash Pandas last year. I honestly don't think, in my opinion, that he's going to be back for the Trash Pandas. He's probably going to AAA.
I hope he's not back.
Yeah, absolutely. He should be going to AAA. Sonny D, don't have any word there. He probably will be back here at first base. He came in late in the season last year, straight out of college, so probably going to get a lot more him. They were here at the light show last night, meeting, greeting everybody, signing stuff, and taking pictures. I was able to hang out with them for a little bit before that. So was Lucas, and they were so nice enough to sign us some stuff for you guys. I have 2 bats, 1 red one regular one each from Sonny D and Colton Ingram signed that we're going to give away to you guys. And those Sonny D shirts that Lucas had just held up a second ago, Sonny D signed both of those. I have a large and an extra large today and on Monday. I'm not going to give all of this away today. I don't want to burn it all out. We're going to give at least one thing away to you guys listening live right now. And then we're going to save one for someone that downloads the podcast. So if you download if you're listening right now and you're thinking, well, you guys record this live, so people are gonna take everything before we have a chance. That's not the case. I'm gonna make sure that you have an opportunity. If you're listening on the recorded section of the podcast, make sure you have that opportunity to get you something as well. So don't worry about that. I am going to, in a minute, tell you how you can enter a chance to win. I've been going back and forth trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to give these things away,
Hmm.
and I haven't. I still hadn't really narrowed it down. It would be better if Sonny had played longer last year because you could do like how many home runs or whatever. But he came in late in the year last year. Colton pitched a bunch. So what do you think? You thinking how many games played? Colton, you could do I guess strikeouts or something like that. What do you
Yeah, I'm
think?
trying to find something where you can't easily look it up.
Yeah, that too. Especially for those on the podcast listening live. You well, I guess you could still do it now. It's easy to look anything up in a heartbeat. So we'll think on it.
We'll brainstorm
Yeah,
throughout the show
we'll
here.
hit you up here in a minute or two about that. Again, Christmas light show going on. Winter Wonderland Inside goes until Christmas Eve. The light show's over January 2nd. We have a big sports weekend starting tonight. So when you get done with the light show, go home, check out number one. The Pac-12 championship starts tonight. That is one of the conference championship games this weekend that actually really means something. Typically, I'm getting really excited for the 2:30 SEC championship game on Saturdays, but it really doesn't mean all that much right now. If the playoffs were expanded this year, it would. I mean, LSU's 14. Their only chance in would either be hoping other people. Well, even if they hoped other people lost, if they lose, they wouldn't get in anyway. So they would have to win to get in. That's exciting. So there's not really much intrigue this year for the LSU Georgia SEC championship game, which is I don't know the last time we had a
A-
meaning
And
this
and even if Georgia loses, they're still in too, so it doesn't
100%.
really matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter
It
at
means
all.
nothing. When was the last time we had a meaningless SEC championship
Oh,
game? Like last year, Alabama had to win to get in. So Alabama won and they were in. Georgia didn't. That game didn't matter to Georgia, but it meant something to
I'm
Alabama.
thinking of like maybe when Missouri was in like 14 and 15 or 13 and 14. Did they? I forget if they because they were playing Alabama in one of those, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, they
So I
played
don't
they
know
played
what.
Auburn in 13, and that mattered because that put Auburn in the BCS championship game.
Oh right, yeah, that was
Um,
BCS.
14, I would imagine 14 mattered a little because Alabama won and they got in. Um, that was the first year of the playoff. We don't really know how it would have worked out because that was also the year where they put a lot of emphasis on conference championship that first year
Yeah, and
because
then they
TCU,
smashed Michigan State in that
yeah, no,
semifinal.
no, that
Was
was the
that
second year.
that was the
First year
following year?
was they beat Ohio State beat Alabama in 14.
Right.
But Ohio State got in because third string quarterback Cardell Jones went and smashed Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, and TCU and Baylor split the Big 12. There was no Big 12 championship game at the time. So TCU actually dropped after winning their final game of the season because Ohio State won a Big Ten championship game. So if Missouri had beaten undefeated Alabama in 2014, or Alabama wasn't undefeated actually, they lost to Ole Miss. So that meant something. Alabama got into the playoff. I could not tell you the last time we had an SEC championship game that meant nothing. We've had Alabama and Florida play a couple of times
With
where
huge implications.
absolutely with Tim Tebow. I mean that determined both years who was going to go to the national championship game. In 08, it was Florida. In 09, it was Alabama. Who was it in 2010? Auburn playing South Carolina. That was back in the BCS. So you lose one game, you're not an SEC champion. You got other teams, other big name teams waiting there. 2011, who did Alabama play in 2000? Or no, it was LSU that made it, right? Because Alabama got in as an at large
Right,
because
because of
LSU beat them.
correct in the game of the year.
Yeah, who did LSU play in the SEC
We
championship
boy, it's
game
almost
that
like we
year?
have Google.
I don't remember. I'm
SEC
sure they beat them really
championship.
good. I just remember them playing Arkansas at the
They beat
last game of the
Georgia.
season.
Oh, because Tyrann Matthew had the. Do you have a punt return for a touchdown in that
Oh,
game,
that's right.
or a
So
fumble return for a touchdown in that
mhm.
game?
So that one meant something. 2012, because you had like Oklahoma State and Stanford and teams like that waiting with one loss on the outside. 2012,
Georgia was in it.
Alabama. That was an amazing game. That was essentially your national championship game that year. With the bat or the pass with 1 second left where he caught it and they
Yep.
didn't have a timeout. Then Alabama stomped Notre Dame. 2013 was Auburn beating Missouri. That meant so in 14
Yeah,
Alabama.
jeez, this
Yeah.
is
So
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to this question. So this is
Right.
unprecedented territory that we care more. I care more, honestly, implication wise, about the Pac-12 championship tonight, USC and Utah, and that's an exciting matchup because Utah can hang with them. Utah's USC's only loss. And USC wins this game, I'll just tell you right now, they're in the playoff because not only would they be a one-loss Pac-12 champion, they would have beaten every team on their schedule. This is a revenge game for them.
And they're already
So
number 4 as it is. So
yeah, so they're in. They're not going to drop. They're going to be in the playoff. TCU, that's another big one. That's a rematch against Kansas State. It's a 10-point game the first time they played. And Kansas State's a pretty good team to hang around with TCU. So if TCU loses, then you start to get murky water because the only reason TCU's in there right now is because they're undefeated and you think they're going to be a Big 12 champion. If TCU loses and they're not a Big 12 champion, that's going to be tough. They're probably out.
does Alabama sneaks in then if there's a possibility that exists? If what are they at
Alabama
currently?
would need both of them. They would need USC and TCU to lose because
Right,
Ohio
which is
State's a
not
tough.
out of the question.
Oh, not at all. And that's why tonight is so interesting. As much as I would love to see Lincoln Riley, who spurned my favorite football team, lose in the Pac-12 championship game, my gut instinct tells me that they're going to win. Utah can hang with them, but something tells me they're
I
going to
want to see Caleb Williams lock up the Heisman.
win.
I think that would be fun.
Have
And
what?
I think I like when uh maybe not necessarily if they're like winning a title, but I USC is one of the teams that I like when they're good. As
College
just like a
football's
random
better.
bystander.
College football is way better when they're good. Again, it's weird because I'd said that forever, but I never imagined that the guy that coached my favorite team to like 3 playoffs as the head coach and then one as an offensive coordinator would be their head coach leading them there. But Lincoln Riley's not my favorite guy. He's a really good offensive minded coach. He's great at developing quarterbacks on the college level. I just don't like the way he did Oklahoma. Caleb Williams have nothing against him. He actually stuck with Oklahoma through the bowl game and then decided that he was going to transfer out. He was a little dramatic with the whole transfer process when you knew it was going to be USC, but he stuck with Oklahoma through the bowl game and he didn't have to do that. So he wins the Heisman tonight. Congratulations to him. Unfortunately, I do think if they get in, it's going to be, or at least in year one for USC, it's going to be exactly like it was with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. They're good enough to beat up on a weak conference because offensively they're just better than everybody. But then they're going to get in the playoff, and offensively they're going to struggle a little bit, and defensively they can't stop anybody.
And
They couldn't stop me and you.
and they're lined up to play Georgia at this rate if everyone wins out, which is like good luck.
And that would be interesting too because they played one other. Lincoln Riley matched up with Kirby Smart 2017 when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, and that was an amazing football game. Oklahoma dominated the first half, and then Squibb kicked it a couple seconds before halftime. Georgia got a field goal, made it a 2-touchdown game, and then Georgia came back and took a lead, went into double overtime. And so Lincoln Riley had an offense that was able to beat up on a Georgia defense. Now Georgia's defense has gotten even better. They were generational last year. They're still the number one defense in the country this year. So offensively, there will be some things that Oklahoma would be able, or sorry, USC would be able to do against Georgia's defense. But Stetson Bennett is going to rip that USC defense apart. That USC defense is not good. Alex Grinch is a bad defensive coordinator when it comes to matching up with SEC schools. So if USC gets in, it's going to be a lot like when Oklahoma got in. I also think if TCU gets in, it'll be similar, but at least it's a different brand, different coach. Sonny Dykes' first year at TCU would be really exciting.
And I was looking at where I don't know if because the two semifinal games are Peach Bowl and Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, does Georgia get another home game in that, or would they go to Glendale?
I think the doesn't the number one seed don't they get to pick their semifinal game?
I forget. Well, one of them's in Atlanta,
They're
so
going to pick
again,
that.
Georgia just
So
plays in Atlanta for the
where's the championship game
87th
again?
time. SoFi at
And
the
so
new Rams Stadium.
okay, so it's going to be so Georgia Georgia doesn't have to travel again outside of their state until the championship game because they play
I
in
feel
Atlanta
like they've
tomorrow.
played in that stadium like I swear like 15 times in the last like 5 years, which is feels absurd.
That's ridiculous.
It's like both a testament to like how good they've been, but also just like the weird setup of like the SC championship being there, and then there that preseason or not that preseason that like week one Chick-fil-A kickoff
Yeah.
classic, like they always seemingly play in that, and then the CFP games that have been there too, just like absurd amount of times, and I'm like, all right, what are we doing here?
They also remind me so much of Alabama because it's Kirby Smart, and then Alabama plays there in like the Chick-fil-A kickoff game as well. So it's
Yeah,
like I
there's
feel like
those.
they're always in that stadium, and it's really, really annoying. And in Georgia, again, they play there tomorrow against LSU. They'll likely, if they win that game, play there against whoever's ranked number 4. So get used to seeing Georgia and Atlanta like you always have. It's intriguing. What's really, really intriguing about all this is if teams start to lose because the chairman of the committee is a ding dong, and he had mentioned that Ohio State and Alabama aren't locked in at those spots, and people were wondering what exactly that meant. Obviously, the common sense part tells you if teams above them lose, then they can start moving up. However, someone said because Ohio State's at 5 right now, Alabama's at 6, and neither one of them play this weekend, does that mean Ohio State is locked in to be above Alabama? And he said not necessarily. How? How does it make any sense that neither of those teams play and Alabama could jump Ohio
Yeah,
State?
no, that wouldn't.
We know
That wouldn't
everything
happen.
we need to know about those teams. If Michigan loses this weekend, I don't. It hurts Ohio State's resume, but we already know what we know about Ohio State. They didn't play this weekend. You can't penalize them for Michigan losing at this point. You've seen Ohio State for 12 games. You've seen Alabama for 12 games. You know what those teams are. The only way Alabama gets in is if both teams, if two teams lose, the right two teams lose this weekend, and they decide to drop both of them from the playoff. Because it looks like right now Ohio State is going to be that next team in, and then if USC loses and TCU loses, the conversation would then be it's not going to be Alabama or Ohio State. I think Ohio State's locked in at that point. The
Yeah,
conversation's going to be Alabama or TCU because TCU lost
right.
and they were above USC. Did they just drop the 4, or does Alabama sneak in? Does TCU drop to 5 or 6 or whatever? So that's going to be the conversation. And I'll tell you right now, if Ohio State gets in over Alabama, people will be mad about it this year. They think Alabama was better. Let TCU get in over Alabama with one loss and no conference championship game. This
Yeah,
state will burn to the ground. It will burn to. We will set it. Well, not we, but we collectively will set this place on fire. So
yeah, but it's understandable though. Don't lose 2 games. Like,
I agree, man. And the gymnastics we go around to the comparing because Alabama has one more loss than Ohio State. The comparison now is Ohio State was blown out at home by their rival. Valid point. That rival was also the number 3 team in the country, undefeated. Alabama has 2 very close road losses. Understandable. But let's also look at some of the wins they had too. Can you name me the last time Ohio State had a struggle win? Because I didn't watch too much Ohio State this year, but I did watch Alabama at home struggle against a Texas A&M team that's not even going to a bowl.
they lightly
So-
struggled against Maryland, and like that was about it. I think there was like at one point it was like kind of dicey, maybe in like the third quarter. But yeah, excuse me. Every game I feel like I just turn on or I see on the bottom ticker like Ohio State wins like 56-10 or something. Like that was a comma, except for the Michigan game. But
It's I love chaos.
I hope nothing. I actually just hope nothing. Like nobody loses, and it's just these. I like these 4. I think this would be a good playoff.
There's not going to be so in the immediate, like on Sunday morning, if that happens, that'll be lame for like the reveal show because
We
we'll
know it.
already know. But at the end of the month, when we actually start playing the playoff games, that'd be a lot of fun. I'm with you. I know it's not a popular opinion, but TCU being in actually does bring me excitement.
And I'm just also as a like objective as I could be of like I'm very very sick of like having the playoff every year is like Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma. Like those 4 have all been in it for the entirety of the
100%.
some conglomeration of them have been in the playoff, right?
Mhm.
Since it existed. So like to have the minimal amount of that would be nice. I'm riding with TCU. I love the Hypnotoads.
Is
They're
this
gonna
going
lose
to be
to
the
Georgia.
first time
Or
that
Michigan.
is this going to be the first playoff we've had that both Clemson and Alabama are out of it,
Probably.
where neither one of those teams made it? Because 2014 Alabama was in, 2015 they played in the championship game against each other. 16 they played in a rematch against each other. In 17 they played in the semifinal game against each other. In 18 Clemson smoked them in the championship game. 19 Alabama didn't make it, but Clemson was in the championship game. 2020, they both made it again. Alabama won. Ohio State beat Clemson in the semifinal.
Yep.
And then last year, Alabama was in it. So, yeah, this will be the first time that neither one of those teams make it. That's
There you go.
pretty crazy as well. And then on top of that, the big news we got out of college football yesterday was the college football playoff expansion is official. The Rose Bowl. I'll be honest with you. When I'm so sick of the Rose Bowl, when I saw that the Rose Bowl agreed to whatever, all I cared about was the college football playoff has been expanded and it'll start in the 2024 season. I don't even know what the Rose Bowl signed off on at this point. I'm so sick and over the Rose Bowl and how high and mighty and cool they think they are. But what they did was great because now we get the playoff expanded early. And man, I was with Ricky when he was saying this year would be awesome if they expanded it now. If they expanded it now. But now that it's coming, I've thought about that more, what it would look like. SEC championship games more meaningful if that happens. Big 12 championship games meaningful, impactful for both teams. Pac 12 championship game for both teams at that point. Washington sitting there at number 12, hoping Utah loses.
Well, that's the thing is now that turns into um, I think previous years, actually most years, it's like you have to one loss is your max probably. Now you're moving into like 3-loss territory. Like you can get 3-loss teams are going to be in the playoff, like
Yeah.
for sure. So that is fun because just knowing that your team can like you're all right if you lose or like you got 2 losses, like you're going to be all right probably. Um,
So you
especially
got
SEC teams.
And then teams like Tulane, who will be playing in their conference championship game, they win. They could be one of the 6 highest ranked conference champions, which would put them in the playoff. And then your 4 highest ranked conference champions, I believe, is what they said are going to be your buys.
Yeah, yep.
So that's cool. And then they get to host a game.
Yes, that's the main thing. I think like a lot of people who don't like it are like, whatever. Alabama's gonna kill Tulane anyways, and yeah, probably. But it's the intrigue of like the matchup of like the,
Yeah.
uh, I guess it would be like a 3-6 matchup or something like that, where it's like someone on the road at I don't know, like someone at TCU, who's Alabama at TCU or something like that, something that's just like spicy matchups that you're not gonna like normally get
And that's so cool too
that aren't played at Mercedes-Benz State. Nothing against the stadium, but just like I'm sick of seeing it.
if you're not one of the top 4 highest ranked conference champions, think of it like, and you still have to play. You don't get the bye. You have to play in the first round of the playoff. You potentially are still rewarded because you get to host a game, right? Like you may not get the bye, but you get a home playoff game on your campus, and that's really cool. Like this year, Ohio State wouldn't get a bye if they were the number 5 team. I don't think they would be because I think you're taking the 6 highest ranked conference champions. I would imagine that's going to be 1 through 6.
Yeah,
Well, let's just play it right now. Ohio State would be the number 5 team right now. They would host number 12 Washington. Home playoff game
that's
at
fun.
Ohio
Wait,
State.
didn't they just play last year or something in
Yeah,
an actual
probably.
regular season game? That's
Al-
still fun though.
Alabama would host Utah. Alabama
Yeah.
Alabama would this year would not get a bye, but taking out the other 2 conference champions because I don't know who they're going to be. Alabama right now, as the standings have it, would host a playoff game. That's a good consolation prize if you're one of the teams that would be qualifying for that.
Yeah, and if you're if like just put on like financial brain for a second, it's like that's another home game for your athletic department.
Dude, there's money there,
And it will
obviously.
sell out. So
Oh my gosh, you kidding me? And then depending on who the school is, you're always going to have the best atmosphere of the season if you're hosting if you're hosting a playoff game. But some of these crazy atmospheres that we have in college football, you put a playoff game on our campus.
plus there's going to be some random set, like if you have like a group of 5 team or just like another like non-power conference team that like makes a run. Now everyone's going to be in a power conference. I don't know how anything's working. But I don't know. There's a possibility with like, oh, say like Tulane. I'll just throw Tulane out there since they've been playing good. Like they go undefeated or something, or they have 1 loss and somehow are able to like host a playoff game for some like or Cincinnati or something, like last year. Was it last year?
Yeah,
Yeah, like an opportunity for one of those schools to
that would be
host is
nuts.
fun.
That would be absolutely bananas. So I'm a fan of the expansion. I'm a fan of home playoff games. I'm a fan of all this. I know that there are people that takes away from certain things, and sometimes, yeah, it's not always going to be perfect. Where some of these conference championship games matter. That was one of the knocks. But I think if you look at it this year, with Alabama losing 2 games, a 3-loss LSU team, being in the SEC championship game, there's not a better year to announce playoff expansion because that argument, at least for this year, goes away. Like, well, now the SEC championship game doesn't mean anything because both of those teams are going to be in automatically in a 12-team playoff. Well, not this year because you got LSU. LSU in a 12-team playoff would have to win tomorrow
Right, yeah.
to get in. So this is a great year to announce that because the SEC championship game would absolutely matter in a 12-team playoff this season.
Yeah, and
So
I think just like literally just the intrigue of what could happen or a possible matchup that could happen
yeah.
is fun in itself. And I admittedly don't watch as much college football as I think I used to. Um,
Same.
n-
I mean,
you have a child now, so
yeah.
um, but like that would get me to tune in because I think of like when I played like growing up, like playing like NCAA football on like for video games sake
Yeah.
of like, and you know you're gonna like win most games like as you're playing it, but like it's fun to like make your schedule as hard as possible, and just like play every like random ranked team or just like pick a cool team that you're like, yeah, you know, they would never play, let me like put like USC on the schedule
Yeah.
just for
Oh
like
yeah.
week one,
You could
just for the because I can. So that's
you could
I'm
take
excited for
yourself
that.
and change conferences back in the day too.
I'm
You ever do
excited
that?
for that.
I used to take random teams. I would go get on like Old Dominion and I
Yeah.
would like have 2 10 12 win seasons and then I would just put them in the SEC and just play in the
There
SEC for
you
no
go.
reason. So, and that's what college football has become now. I mean, think about it next year. I think with UAB hiring Trent Dilfer, that's cool because they're moving up to the AAC and that would probably be great for recruiting wise. That's a splash name hire. Nobody knows what he's going to be like on the college level, but that's a big name that kids could get excited about. Played in the NFL forever, and then or forever ago, and then most of the competitive teams in the AAC are moving to the Big 12. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Cincinnati, Houston, all
Yep.
those teams are moving on. So college football is going to look wildly different next year, and when the playoff rolls around.
And once like I'll just use SC for example with Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. Like, yeah, you're probably gonna have a bunch of 3-loss SEC teams because
Oh, yeah.
your schedule is sick,
It's gonna be
and
stacked.
so yeah, it's like it's a perfect scenario for that
I mean, I
to
just
set
got
up.
done going to Death Valley hosting Auburn, and now I've got to either go to Texas or I've got to go to Norman. That's brutal. So,
Sure.
and then Greg Sankey's talking about ditching divisions in the
Which
SEC.
I
So,
absolutely agree with.
for sure. I mean, you get your teams that you're going to play every year. Your 2 or 3 teams that you'll play every year, and then you rotate the other ones. That you're playing everybody within a 4-year span. Everybody in that recruiting class, if they were able to stay for 4 years, would play everybody in the SEC. They home and away.
Florida hasn't played at Auburn since 2010, but they've played at Texas A&M 3 times in the last since Texas A&M joined the SEC, which is in 2012. So they played in 2012. They played him in 20. They played him this season at College Station, and then in
2020.
2020. Um, but in that time frame, they have not played at Auburn.
That
Like,
is,
what are we doing?
it's so stupid. And there was one of those too where I think the only time Georgia and Texas A&M had played each other was the first time they played each other was in like 2019.
Yeah.
And I think it's the only time they played each other. The one time in 10 years.
And Florida and Auburn were like longtime rivals, like in like the
Yeah.
70s, 80s, 90s was like played a lot of good matchups. So that's
Unreal.
just one specific example. But yeah, I don't think there should be divisions in any. I actually I'll go this take. I don't think there should be divisions in any sport.
Any sport. Okay,
I
so
get that the geographic travel stuff
yeah.
makes sense. I totally get that. But in an ideal world, I think it would be fun to just have no.
But that's
Like, why
kind
do
of
we have conferences in the NFL?
that's a good point. They end up all playing each other anyway.
Yeah, that's
So
nice because it at least like rotates.
yeah.
But it's just like you it makes sense for for baseball, I think.
Yeah, definitely for
Geographically
baseball.
because you're
Absolutely.
traveling a
And you
bunch,
play them
but
so many times a year. So I guess that makes sense for baseball. But I mean, I've only thought about it in the lens of college football. I mean, that's why you're talking about the geographic thing. That's kind of why you have the conference anyway. Like if you took divisions away, a, at least before this round of expansion, conferences were basically like you get as many people in your geographic area. Like the Southeastern Conference isn't just a cool SEC name; it's supposed to geographically
yeah,
represent where these teams are. So,
the Pacific 12 or Pacific 10 originally.
oh,
That's what it is.
the Pac-10, what a throwback that was! I can't believe it's
It wasn't
been
even that long ago.
10 years since the Pac-10 was a thing. I'm just Pac-12 just feels like it's always been the Pac-12. But
Yeah, exactly.
so we'll wrap this up still at 3 o'clock. I know we jumped in here late. But before we do get out of here, I wanted to reserve a few more minutes before we do some giveaway stuff for one more thing. And with the sports weekend that it is, the conference championships going on, NFL weekend, that's great. But man, the way that it's all scheduled out is so perfect because you got the SEC championship game at 2:30 tomorrow. You've got the Pac-12 championship game tonight. You got the Big 12 championship game at 11 in the morning. At 9 a.m. tomorrow, our time, you've got in the knockout stage the U.S. taking on the Dutch, the Netherlands. So
Oh, yeah.
I will wake up on a Saturday earlier than I have in the last like 10 years. Tomorrow, I'm gonna
I
get up
that's
and get ready for
love it. Yeah, make yourself a big breakfast and grab a coffee and settle in.
this. Last Saturday, we went to a buddy of mine's house, or last week was it a Saturday last weekend? Uh, Whenever the game, or it was a Friday. It was during the long weekend.
Yeah,
It was Friday. We went to a friend's house to watch it because it was a 1 o'clock game. And we had to load up Oliver, and we went over there and watched it, and then came home. And my wife asked me in the kitchen last night. I was like, "The U.S. play Saturday, 9 a.m. I'm pumped." She goes, "Can we just not go anywhere to watch that? Because we're gonna have to get up at like 6 o'clock, like we're going to
that's
work."
I thought about that too. I was like, ooh, maybe I want to like go. I'm sure there's something here in town that's doing a watch party. I was like, no, I think I want to stress watch it by myself on my
Hundred
couch so
percent.
that I can like freak out in without the public eye.
I want to roll out of bed at 8:15, get a shower, throw some eggs on the stove, and then just sit down and watch it. I don't want to have to get up at 6 o'clock, get my kid ready, let my wife get ready, and then drive all the way out here to Madison to hang out with my buddy and watch it. I would love to watch it with him. I'm not getting up 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, maybe for like what Ricky and I did. Like we took off on that very first Monday, or at least we took a half day to
Yeah,
go somewhere to watch, but it was in the afternoon,
it was like a
and it
one
was a
o'clock
good
game.
like breakup from work. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just. Someone brought it up to me of like, oh, there's a place like I think it was a brewery here is maybe showing it. Um, and I just don't really feel like doing that. So I'm excited to just post up on the couch and do that because then I can just flip channels immediately to the Big 12 championship game. You said that's the 11 a.m. one.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. So odds wise here, like just trying to narrow it down, not necessarily Vegas odds, but realistically, the U.S.'s chances against the Netherlands. Because the way I look at it, Ricky looks at it a little differently because I guess he's viewing it now that the World Cup's here and how the U.S. has played. Maybe there's a little more expectation on them for getting out of the group and stuff. But from my experience, only watching in the World Cups, that's always been the expectation. Is just you get out of the group. That's what you're expected to do, and then after that, let's just see what happens.
Yeah,
It
and I
doesn't.
think that was everybody's mindset for U.S. soccer fans going into this too. Was like, all right, this team's it's like the youngest team they've ever had. You're looking ahead to 2026 when you're going to have home matches.
Had an easy enough group.
Yeah, but and you never know. Like, there's been a ton of parity so far in the World
It's
Cup
true. Yeah.
too. Germany's out, Mexico's out, Uruguay's out, Belgium's out. Like some of the heavy hitters are gone, and the U.S. is still there. So, but I think everyone was like, all right, get out of the group. Anything after that, cherry on top. And that's how I feel too. Like, would it stink to lose the Netherlands tomorrow? Yeah, but like Netherlands is pretty good.
Yeah.
So but again, it's even and then anything can happen because even if you just get it, heck, just get it to penalty kicks and with a draw somehow, and you never know what happens.
And that's the other thing for people that like me don't watch soccer all that often. I get like it I go from not watching it at all, and then if some friends of mine will be like, "Hey, we've got a really important, World Cup qualifier or something, or a Concacaf game," I will turn that on. I'll try to keep up with it a little bit. That's how I knew the name Ricardo Pepi, because I watched a big game that he had like a year ago or something. But I really like. I don't just watch the World Cup when it comes around. I try to really get into it, especially when it comes to the U.S. So just keep in mind the crowd that's like, well, soccer's boring because you can play 90 minutes, a little extra, and not even score or end in a draw. We're past that stage now. We're in the knockout stage. There will be a winner. Someone has to put the ball in the
There's
net at
been
some
I
point.
don't regardless of like I totally understand the people that you can like whatever sport you like or don't like. You
Yeah.
say it's boring, that's fine. I don't care. Um, but like purely for the drama sake of the drama, like just the last 3 days of
Mhm.
like group stage play of teams that are trying to get into the knockout or get eliminated
Yeah.
has been insane drama, and it happens at the same time because yeah, sounds good. And so there's just been wild drama even this past 2 days. So I think at this point anything can happen. Some reports coming out of the Dutch camp that they're dealing with the flu a little bit. Um, that's a thing. And
Okay. I'm intrigued.
I think over the past couple days, like uh, the analysis of the pundits of it feels like it's trending more towards like, oh, US can win this game. And
And
I
then they
think
announced Christian Pulisic was ready to go today too.
yes,
So
announced today, Pulisic is cleared. Uh, so that is obviously huge. They need to start Gio Reyna for the love of God, please.
what is going on with that? I've seen so much that like he's been ready to go. It's just been a Berhalter decision.
Yeah, Berhalter said today or yesterday in an interview that it was like if you look at the games that we've played so far and just tried the course of the game, like it's hasn't been like the right spots to put him in, especially because you're trying to like defend leads or something or hold a draw that uh, you're gonna maybe lean towards putting a defenseman in or a defensive midfielder. But he's like one of your top five like best talent, like he's top three best talents on the team. Like maybe you just start him and then you won't be you could have like a 3 goal lead instead of a 1 goal lead that you're
Yeah.
trying to protect. Like it's a very odd. There's a lot of there's some deeper background I think with it they're trying to figure out, but you got to play him tomorrow. Like Netherlands is super talented. Like play your best players.
Right, because I mean, we're at the point now where the impact of that game that directly impacts your next game. There may not be another one. I mean, you have to win or go
Yeah,
home. So
you can't be like playing. You can't really play for unless it gets later in the game and you're like in a close draw and it's 1-1 late. Then you might say, all right, let's play for the draw. But like at kickoff,
mm,
you can't play for the draw. Like you got to go for it,
yeah,
man.
so I agree with you. Put your talent out there and let's see what happens. Before we do hop out of here, let's go to the YouTube here. I normally have it available on my computer to read the comments, but I don't have it today. So I just want to make sure we get everybody in here. This looks like the most reaction I've seen probably ever.
We got
On
Charles and our boy Ethan over here going.
Are they
having a
going at
good.
it with each
They were
other?
having a good convo with college football playoff stuff. So
I'm so sorry, guys, that I didn't
appreciate
read
the
any of this live
comments.
because I didn't. I just it didn't hit me until like 5 minutes ago that I don't have it pulled up on my computer. I was like, "Where's the interaction? We're giving stuff away today," and I didn't have it pulled up. So that's on me. Going through here, Ethan's USA. He says just me and Charles arguing about Bama. What do they argue? Is Charles trying to argue Alabama getting in?
Yes.
Oh boy, I'd love to hear that. Charles, what is your argument with
In the
Alabama
case of
getting
a
in?
TCU loss, a one-loss
Oh,
TCU.
Alabama over TCU. I can see that. At TCU, the problem with TCU is kind of similar to Alabama. Like, if you don't, Alabama's had some great losses. Like, their losses are good. They're not to unranked teams or anything.
And they're by 1 point.
But yeah, but what do
2
you have?
points.
What do you have wins wise? Your best win is over a 4-loss Ole Miss team that's like in the top, barely in the top 20. TCU, if they lose this game, you're a non-conference champion like Alabama. You only have 1 loss, but what are your great wins? All your wins that look great at the time have withered away. The only thing we're riding off now is that you're undefeated because Oklahoma went 6-6 this year when you after you smacked them around. Kansas State's a good win. If you lose to them, I mean, it's tough to beat the same team twice, but that's a pretty good win because Kansas State would jump into the top 10 after they beat TCU. So you might be able to look at the resume and still argue some good wins for TCU in that case, but I'd probably want at that point, if TCU's not undefeated, they don't have that shine and luster, I'd either want Ohio State or Alabama and get a more competitive game. I hate to say that, but I would.
What a Hypnotoads. I'm so into the Hypnotoads thing. I want a t-shirt. I have nothing to do with TCU. Been to Texas literally twice in my life.
Do they still do the thing? They've done it a couple. They did it against Oklahoma in 2014, I remember, and they've done it like every time they do it. I usually see it on SportsCenter, but when they're playing at home, they'll usually at one point wear those jerseys that blend in with their end zone, and they'll have a dude just crouch down and like lay down in the
Oh,
end zone.
I vaguely remember that, but yeah, they just go like purple on purple.
Yeah,
Type
he'll
deal.
lay
Yeah.
down in the end zone and
I've
blend
seen a
in,
couple memes of that
and then
before.
someone will get the ball and then like lateral to him, and no one's over on that side of the field because they didn't see him laying down, and he'll either have a good return, maybe he took it for a touchdown one time. Do they still? I wonder if they still do that. They should. They should still do that.
Agreed.
All right, finally, let's give something away to you guys watching right now. Before you bounce, it's almost 3 o'clock. I know some of you probably already jumped out, but we want to give away one of our Sunny D t-shirts and one of our Colton Ingram bats. So before we get out of here, Lucas, do you have any input on how we should give these away?
Not in particular. I mean, we could give it to one of our boys here who's been into the chat.
I agree. I think that
Interactive.
since what I'm going to do with the T-shirt, and Ethan, I know you hit the gym. I know you probably like to wear the mediums to show off your muscles. I do not have a medium, but for one of the Sunny D shirts, I'm going to save the other one for the podcast. But for the live video, I'll give you the large, Ethan. Our large Sunny D T-shirt.
It's a big old. He's got the big old Auburn.
Yeah, it's a big Auburn fan
thing.
It'll go to Ethan. Ethan, you have been. I'm trying not to take the radio into account of this because that's not fair to the people that didn't know about the radio show and listen to the podcast. Ethan, you and Charles both been huge radio listeners.
He wears larges,
but perfect. And
he could shrink a little bit.
Charles, you've been in here on the podcast a lot too. So has Robert. But Ethan's been not only in here every day on the podcast. Not only is he a big Auburn fan, he has been hammering that. Window over there. The Colton Ingram bat that I'm going to give away to the live listener. He probably jumped in at the beginning. I don't know if he's been commenting anymore. It is going to go to Robert Ashley. Robert Ashley is vocal as Ethan and Charles has been. Robert has been just as much. I mean, this has been a dude that anything Ricky and I do or post, he wants to be in on the conversation with us. He wants to talk about it, personal life, radio, podcast, whatever. So the signed Colton Ingram bat is going to go to Robert Ashley. Big Trash Panda fan, hasn't been able to make it out to as many games as he'd like. He has to, get with the family and stuff like that. So, Robert, you're going to get the bat. Ethan, you're going to get the Sunny D shirt. We're going to give away another bat and that other shirt on the recorded podcast. So if you're listening on the recording right now, we've given away a shirt, got one left. We've given away a bat. I got 3 bats left. I'm going to give away one more bat, one more shirt. The shirt that I have left, XL. We only have larges and XLs left. I'm giving away a Sunny D XL signed shirt, by the way, and then a signed Colton Ingram bat. It's hard on the recording because they can look anything they want to up. Anything. So let me do it this way. I've got the text window, right? I want you to text me in. Let's go college football here.
Sure.
People still in college football. Text me in what you think the top 4 after this weekend is going to be. You have to get it in today. Tell me what you think it's going to be, and I'll take – and it comes in order of who sends them. I'll take – going with radio here, old school radio. You say 4th? I didn't want to go 10. That's probably too high up the list. People will just wait too long to text it in.
Yeah.
The 4th texter. Number 4 and number 8. We'll throw one in the back, too, for one of the bats. Number 4 wins the shirt. Number 8 wins the bat. Get to texting. By the way, Robert and Ethan, the one that just won on live, you can't win again on the podcast.
Do they have to text their name with it, too?
Yeah, if you haven't texted the text line before, text your name.
What is the text line?
It's 256-434 1366 256-434 1366. That comes directly to my phone. Email. It's a Google Voice thing. I've had it for several years. It's our bullpen text line. Text that. Text what you think your top 4 is going to be this weekend. Let me know where you get your podcast as well. Include that in there so I know you're listening on the podcast. Tell me where you download your podcast. Trash Pandas Podcast Network. It's under their umbrella. It's the Bullpen. I'm Tony Mack. That is Lucas. Thank you again so much for filling in while Ricky is partying up out in Vegas. Monday, I'll probably be doing this by myself again, or at least Ricky won't be in here live. Maybe he'll actually be at his hotel in Vegas because he doesn't come back until Tuesday, I think. So until then, have a great weekend. Enjoy the college football. Enjoy the U.S. soccer match. Watch it. Again, Troy, thank you so much. Our Town Podcast and Mantech for the hat. Lucas, hopefully doesn't break your giveaway bats. And we will see you on Monday. Until then, I'm Tony Mack. It's been the Bull.